Hey guys, how's it going? I am Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup. Yes, this is where it all ends, my friends. Stage 4, Week 5 of the Overwatch League regular season, our final week of the regular season. There are Stage 4 playoffs to cover, there are qualification for the overall season playoffs to cover. So we start off with the Los Angeles Gladiators taking on the Shanghai Dragons. They need a win, they get a win. 4-0 for the Gladiators, and Dragons fall on hard times once again. Dragons 0-39 by this time. Gladiators looking very good for their overall season playoff place. They were doing quite well, but they needed a win over Seoul to secure it. That we will cover later on. So, Los Angeles Valiant taking on the San Francisco Shock. Valiant already sitting peachy in those season playoff places, already sitting peachy in the stage playoff places, but they still had a record to uphold, and that's that unbeaten record, and that they beat the Shock 3-1. Shock out of the season playoffs and out of the stage playoffs. Shock's season is over. A much improved team, and very promising for Season 2. Seoul Dynasty. This is where it gets really tasty. Seoul Dynasty taking on the Dallas Fuel. Dallas Fuel need wins for their stage playoff chances because they've got no chance of the season playoffs. Seoul Dynasty must win. If they do not win, they are out of the overall season playoffs. They get their win, 3-1 to the Seoul Dynasty. It's not the end for Dallas Fuel because they have a game against Los Angeles Valiant coming up, but it does kind of hand it to Philadelphia Fusion and put it in their hands. Now, another team requiring a win is the Houston Outlaws. They are the other team challenging Seoul Dynasty. And of all the people to go up against, it's the Philadelphia Fusion. Philadelphia Fusion, another team who could fall out of the overall playoffs. It's all very, very close, but Houston Outlaws get a crucial win, beating the Philadelphia Fusion 3-1. This got nails biting in Philadelphia. Now, Houston at this point and Seoul were looking fairly decent, and they still needed wins, mind. They still could not lose in Week 5. Whereas Philadelphia, they could afford one loss. But it made it very, very close and made it very, very nail biting. Now we move on to the Florida Mayhem taking on the London Spitfire. At this point, London weren't assured a playoff place, but their map differential was heavily in their favour. But they 4-0 the Mayhem, so that meant London are there. London are a playoff team, along with the Los Angeles Gladiators securing it up against the Shanghai Dragons. It left it down to the final three between Philadelphia Fusion, Seoul Dynasty, and the Houston Outlaws. But before that, we had the New York Excel in action again against Boston Uprising. Excel have been trying a few things, and it's resulted in losses, to be quite honest. Whether they've taken their eye off the ball or whatever because they know they've qualified as C1, Excelsior are Excelsior, and they've been trying a few things, and it hasn't been working out, and it didn't work out this time either, with Boston Uprising getting the 3-1 victory over the Excelsior. Boston sealing a playoff place. Boston heavily relying on that stage 3, those stage 3 results for getting that playoff, but it's good. They are out of the stage playoffs, but the season playoffs, Boston are in there. So at this point we have the Excel, we have LA Valiant, the LA Gladiators, Boston Uprising, London Spitfire in the overall playoffs. So it's one place to be decided. And this is where it gets interesting. Big Game Saturday, as I want to call it. Houston Outlaws had to beat the New York Excelsior to stand a chance of qualifying for the overall season playoffs. It's a 5-mapper. Houston put up an incredible fight, but lose 3-2 to New York Excel. So, to be clear, Houston Outlaws are out of the overall playoffs. This left it to a straight fight between Seoul Dynasty and the Philadelphia Fusion. One team would be a playoff team at the end of this season. One would not. It would be over. Now, the next game was Los Angeles Gladiators, already qualified for stage playoffs, already qualified for overall playoffs, taking on the Seoul Dynasty. Seoul, I repeat, needed to win. They must win. Gladiators? You know, you always want to win matches, right? Seoul Dynasty put up a massive fight. But they lose 3-1 to the Los Angeles Gladiators. This means that the team at the start of the season who were picked to win it all were top of most people's power rankings. Seoul Dynasty will not be in the playoffs. A massive shock. An absolutely massive shock. Gladiators getting that win, securing themselves a nice win, you know. A nice win. It didn't really mean much for the Gladiators apart from perhaps seeding. Dallas Fuel taking on the Los Angeles Valiant. The Valiant with not much to play for apart from the seeding. They're in the overall stage. They're on the stage playoffs. They're in the overall playoffs. Dallas Fuel. Big game for them because they needed to win, right? Because otherwise they would not be going to the stage playoffs. And it's the only chance for Dallas to really prove themselves because this stage they have seemed so much better than they have been in the previous three, as we all know. Just look at Dallas. You know, this stage is a much better Dallas Fuel than we've been seeing previously. They beat the Los Angeles Valiant 3-1. Big for two reasons. Dallas Fuel keep themselves in those stage playoff places in the lead role. They're just relying on the Fusion. Valiant lose their unbeaten run going into the overall playoffs and the stage playoffs. Not the ideal not the ideal time to lose that winning run, but the Valiant still look good, right? I'd still say they're second best team in the league. Then, a big game. The stage playoff implications, and not at this time, because of Seoul Dynasty losing, Philadelphia Fusion was secured in the overall playoffs. This was big for stage playoffs. Fusion needed to 4-0 the London Spitfire to get into the stage playoffs and deny Dallas Fuel. If London took one map, then Dallas Fuel would be out of the stage. Would be in the stage playoffs, and Fusion would be out. 2-0 at halftime to the Philadelphia Fusion. 3-0 after Oasis to the Philadelphia Fusion. We go to Gibraltar. London win Gibraltar. 3-1 to the Fusion. It's a decent win in anybody's case, but it does not get Fusion to those stage playoffs. Congratulations to the Dallas Fuel. The fairy tale story has not ended. They are in the stage 4 playoffs. They could actually get themselves some cash this season. Apart from seeding cash, end of season seeding. This is really good for the Fuel. Really good. So, your playoff places for stage playoffs were Los Angeles Valiant, well, Los Angeles Gladiators because they finished first seed, Los Angeles Valiant, New York Excelsior, Dallas Fuel. Very interesting mixing things up. Right, we do have two fixtures to sort out. Shanghai Dragons versus the San Francisco Shock. Both teams not playing for anything here. Although Shanghai Dragons perhaps with a little bit of pride just trying to get a win. Their final chance to get a win. Would it be that 0-40 season or would it be a 1-39? Who am I kidding? It would be a 0-40 season, right? 4-0 to the San Francisco Shock. And the San Francisco Shock gave us a little surprise on the final map. It was on Dorado and we got to see IDDQD for the first time. Jeez. Can't you play him a bit more, Shock? Come on. Poor IDDQD got to play 5 minutes on Dorado because it was really short. Although he did pop off at the end, getting a 4K. And the last game of the regular season was the Boston Uprising taking on the Florida Mayhem. This was purely Florida not having to play for anything, plus Boston, it was kind of for seeding, if they lost, they'd drop down a few places in the overall standings and it would change a few things, but Boston get the 4-0, Florida looking damn right terrible, I'm sorry, Florida fans, they were. Boston looking fairly decent, and they go in as third seeds into the playoffs, for the overall season playoffs. So, I'm going to look at the standings first, before we get into those stage playoffs. So, the stage 4 standings are topped off by the Fisher Gang, otherwise known as Los Angeles Gladiators, taking the number 1 seed off the Valiant at the very last minute, as Valiant lost to Fuel. Valiant taking that second place with an equal record of 9-1, but their differential is inferior by 4. So, third place, New York Excelsior, the stalwarts of the stage playoffs. They have been in every stage playoff, but not won every stage playoff. So, you don't know. Excelsior currently the reigning stage champions, though. In fourth place, you have the mighty rejuvenated Dallas Fuel. I did not think I'd be saying that. With a 6-4 record. That 6-4 record was shared with the Houston Outlaws and the Philadelphia Fusion. But with the Houston losing in the last week and Fusion not getting that map, the 4-0 that they needed over London, they have an inferior map differential by 1. Dallas Fuel have +5 and the Outlaws and Fusion have +4. It couldn't have been any closer. San Francisco Shock occupy the 7th spot this stage with a +7 differential. Man, if they got one more win, they would be there instead of Fuel. Boston Uprising in 8th, recovering slightly after their terrible start to the stage. London Spitfire down in 9th. And Seoul in 10th. Seoul with a 3-7 record, that's really hurt them. Really hurt them. This stage has definitely killed their overall standings. Oh dear, and this is the first time London and Seoul have gone a stage with a negative record. London with a 4 wins and 6 losses, Seoul with a 3 wins and 7 losses. The previously worst ratio for them were 5-5 in stage 3. Florida Mayhem in their customary 11th position with a 1-9 record, and of course, Shanghai 0-10 in the 12th position. I've got to hand it to Dallas Fuel. It's been a massive turnaround. I'll get onto that in a minute. So, league overall standings. This is 40 out of 40. All 40 games played. In the top seed position, New York Excelsior. We've known it for a while. 34 games won, 6 lost. 126 maps won, 43 lost, 4 tied, +83 differential. Los Angeles Valiant oh, I always got that wrong. Occupy the second seed with a 27 win and 13 loss ratio, 100 map wins, 64 lost, and 7 ties, +36 goal map differential. There's football for you. Boston Uprising, third position, 26 wins, 14 losses, 99 maps won, 71 lost, 3 ties, 28 differential. Los Angeles Gladiators in 4th, 25 wins, 15 losses, 96 maps won, 72 lost, 3 tied, 24 differential. London Spitfire, the people we were expecting to be second seed, in 5th, 24 wins, 16 losses, 102 maps won, 69 lost, 3 ties, 33 differential. Philadelphia will occupy that 6th and last playoff place. 24 wins, 16 losses, 93 maps won, 80 lost, 2 ties, and a 13 differential. The guys who narrowly missed out. Houston Outlaws in 7th, a 22-18 record. 94 map wins, 77 loss, 2 ties, and 17 differential. Seoul Dynasty, the big shockers not to make it to those season playoffs, in 8th, same record as the Houston Outlaws. 91 maps won, 78 lost, 3 ties, and a 13 differential. God, World Cup's here, isn't it? San Francisco Shock in 9th, a 17 map wins, 23 losses. That's actually not bad considering their start to the season. They're definitely improving. 77 map wins, 84 losses, 5 ties, a -7 differential. Much better than it was, I must admit. Dallas Fuel, probably the most disappointing team this season. Close to Shanghai and perhaps Seoul. 10th, 12 wins, 28 losses, 58 maps won, 100 lost, 7 ties, -42 differential. Florida Mayhem, who've had a bad few stages. They looked better earlier on in the season, that's saying something. In 11th with 7 wins, 33 losses, 42 maps won, 120 lost, and a 5 tied, -78 differential. And of course, Shanghai Dragons, 12th, 0 wins, 40 losses, 21 maps won, 141 maps lost, 2 ties, -120 differential. Oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I'm gonna do a video coming up reviewing some teams, but let's move on to those Stage 4 playoffs. Yes, the playoffs were extremely interesting, because obviously Los Angeles Gladiators pipped the Valiant to that first seed in the stage standings, and so that gave them a bit of an advantage because they could pick their opponent for the semi-finals. Now, the Gladiators could have picked Dallas if they wanted to. It was, on paper, the easiest pick of the lot, but they decided no. We want a chance to prove ourselves. We want to take back our city. We want a 5th battle for LA. Yes, the first semi-final was the Los Angeles Valiant, taking on the Los Angeles Gladiators. And boy, what a game it was. It didn't go Gladiators' way on the first map, which was Gibraltar. It was a 3-0 to Valiant. But then Los Angeles Gladiators were like, hey, we're not going to let this go easily. 4-2 to them on Horizon, 1-1 at half time. Gladiators not mucking around, and they continued this on to Lijiang, where they won 2-0, 2-1 to the Gladiators at this point after 3 maps. The Valiant had to turn up, because if they lost the next map, they were out. And that they do. The next map is King's Row, and it's 3-2 to the Los Angeles Valiant. Game 5, to decide it all. 2-2 at this point, and it's Dorado. But boy, is it a dominant Dorado for Valiant. 2-0. Gladiators don't even get first point. So, yeah, I think it was the Gladiators trying to put on a bit of a show. They weren't too worried about losing these stage playoffs. Yeah, they didn't get any cash. But there are season playoffs coming up, so you've got to account for that. 3-2 to the Valiant in the end. They proceed to the final. But who would be joining them? Of course, the 2 teams left over were the Dallas Fuel, who just made it, and the New York Excelsior, who are on a bit of a downturn at the moment. Who would you pick for that game? Excel, right? Well, 4-3 to Excel on Gibraltar, giving them the 1-0. And then 1-0 to Excel on Horizon. Extremely dominant Excel performance up until that point. Dallas Fuel down 2-0 at half time. Dallas Fuel, we're not going to take this line down though. We go to Lijiang and Dallas Fuel win 2-0. It was dominant on Lijiang for Dallas. Massively dominant. Don't know what happened at half time, but they really wanted to go with it. And I tell you what, the battle of the Widowmakers between Taimu and Pine was very interesting. Really, really interesting, and it did really come to the forefront on Dorado, but that's in a minute. King's Row was very, very close. Very, very close, but Dallas Fuel get the 3-2 on King's Row. Massive. This is 2-2 now. Going into map 5, the crucial map on Dorado. The battle of the Widowmakers. Would Taimu or Pine win? It was a very even battle, but Excel edged it ever so slightly. Taimu got some massive plays on Widow though. He should not go home disappointed because he really did do very well in this playoff. Dallas Fuel did, however, lose 3-2 to the New York Excel, but boy did they give them a run for their money. And I tell you what, a lot of people are saying the meta is favourable for Dallas at the moment, and I'd be tending to agree with them, but I tell you what, if they can start getting their dive working, boy oh boy, Dallas might have a Season 2 to remember. But that was the semi-finals over with. We were set up with a final. First seed versus second seed. New York Excelsior versus Los Angeles Valiant. Could this be an early play of perhaps the season finale? Hey, you don't know. But New York Excelsior taking on Los Angeles Valiant. It all started on Dorado. And I tell you what, this was extremely dominant for Excel. For Valiant, sorry. A 1-0 to Valiant on Dorado. It was dominant, dudes. Their defense on Dorado was something to behold. Soon, he had the game, or the day of his life, to be quite honest. He popped off and shut down Shawford in that semi-final against Gladiators. Shawford did not have a good day. And he, oh my god, he was pivotal for Valiant over these games. We moved on to Hanamura in the second game, or second map, and Excelsior win that one 1-0. It's 1-1 at half time, and we're thinking, haha, game on, boys. And after half time, Valiant had had enough, to be quite honest. They said, Excel, don't even bother. 2-0 to Valiant on Oasis, making it 2-1 to Valiant, and then in Game 4 on Blizzard World, they full hold Excelsior and win it 1-0. Los Angeles Valiant are the Stage 4 Overwatch League champions. And did they do it in style? I tell you what, this stage has been Soon's best stage by far, and if he can maintain that form going into the season playoffs, Valiant are going to be an absolute battering ram. They're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Big time. And they get a bye, by the way, past the first games, because they got first seed in their division. So, big ups for the Valiant, you know. They are doing so well right now. So well. And they could win it all. They were saying on the Overwatch League broadcast that perhaps Valiant are the best team in the world. I don't agree with that. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. Yes, they beat Excel, but I still think Excelsior have that crown for now. But if Excelsior don't do very well in those playoffs, in the season playoffs coming up, then, you know, you've got to say whoever wins those season playoffs are going to be the best team in the world. And it's going to be a team that can turn up at the big event. I don't want to say the Stage 4 playoffs were mediocre, because they're not. But they're not the season playoffs, you know. Stage playoffs are for 125 grand, whereas the season playoffs are for $1 million. You know, it's a bit different, and a lot of teams are going to concentrate on that. I'm sure the Gladiators are going to have some tactics up their sleeve, along with Excelsior, along with Valiant, along with London Spitfire, along with Fusion, along with Boston. All sorts can happen. All sorts can happen. But that is the end of our regular season, believe it or not. It's been a long road, but it's gone quite quick in my opinion. Your Stage 1 champions were London Spitfire. Your Stage 2 champions are New York Excelsior. They also won Stage 3. And your Stage 4 champions are Los Angeles Valiant. But who will take it all? My MVP for the season is Fisher. I voted for him on Twitter. I think he has made the most difference for a person coming into a team. Yes, you can argue for people like Super and that, but the decision to bring in Fisher was massive for Gladiators, and it's made their season. I really don't think they'd be in the season playoffs without Fisher. Sorry, iRemix, but I don't. Fisher has been a really big player for Gladiators, and he was good at Spitfire, but Spitfire just had too many good tanks, and they couldn't maintain them all. So, that's going to be it for this league roundup. Next week there will be a video definitely on the downfalls of some of the teams that haven't made it to the playoffs, and I may install some predictions for the season playoffs, although that may also be a separate video, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out yet. There is plenty of pro Overwatch coming your way. We have Contenders Season 2 coming up in July. We also have the start of the Overwatch World Cup qualifying, which, if it goes by last year's dates, it will be starting latter end of July going into August. And then of course at BlizzCon, that's where that all goes down big time. So Contenders coming up, World Cup coming up, and the Overwatch League playoffs. But it's been a long season, and I can't wait to get stuck into these playoffs. They start on the 11th of July. I will have the fixtures in one of the up and coming videos. Probably the prediction video, if that's a separate video. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you in the next video. See you then.